we talked about maybe having some of those deep conversations. So maybe you might have even had a deep conversation with somebody last week and when we talked about that power play, maybe it was a bit of like, okay, I didn't treat you so well because my power over you, or I feel that you had that magician sleight of hand against me here, so I'm not happy with you. So this is a good week. If that did happen and you left any kind of communications a little bit strange from that, this is a good week to go in with the clarity and just, okay, look, this was a situation and let's now just move forward.
We know that you were born magical. We know that you are intuitive, and we know that you are brimming with everyday enchantment. Here at the Sisters Enchanted, we believe in intention, we believe in intuition, and we believe in everyday magic. Welcome in to the Expedition to Soul podcast. Think about what life would look like if you had the foundation to do the shadow work, understand where you're holding yourself back, and the confidence to bring some everyday magic elements into your life, follow your intuition, and know exactly the steps forward for you. Well, that's what we teach you and more in our Holistic Witchery program. Be sure to get on the wait list for Holistic Witchery. It's the one class we think everybody should take here at the Sisters Enchanted. It has changed so many lives and is at the core of all of our fundamental beliefs about who we are and how we propel ourselves forward in a way that makes great change for ourselves and those around us. Check out holisticwitchery.com, get on the wait list, and we can't wait to welcome you into class just as soon as enrollment opens.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of the Expedition to Soul podcast. I'm Anna, and I'm with our friend Sarah Milne. Hello,
Hi,
Sarah.
Anna. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yep. I'm
good. And we are here for another astrology forecast for this week. Last week we had some Pluto trine Mercury possible power shifting happening. And so what's happening to us this week?
This week, so last week with that trine, of course, we had Mercury in Taurus. So Mercury is very, very grounded, and Pluto was like, kind of it's all esoteric energy. Now this time we've got Mercury returning into Gemini, into his own sign. Mercury is returning to its own sign because it's been in Taurus. It went back to Taurus in retrograde, and now it's back in Gemini again in its own sign. So where we've had our real kind of like foggy Mercury retrograde time, I don't know how everything was. I found this Mercury retrograde, I don't know if I had I think I did have some foggy, more like too much in my mind, too many things in my mind. I couldn't focus on one thing, which I'm going to come back to in a minute. But also that kind of like, I had loads of tech issues as well, this Mercury retrograde. But a lot of people experience very foggy thinking and in Mercury retrograde, and of course Pluto, having that trine with Pluto didn't help that because you had this really deep thinking. So now this week is going to bring us some much needed, I think, clarity of mind and clarity of other people's perceptions, and also clarity in other people's communication. So maybe you might have been feeling, I think I had some of that in Mercury retrograde, like, what are people trying to say here? What's the meaning of all of this kind of thing? So for clarity of thought and clarity of perception of others as well this week, which is really cool. So my hot tips for this week for this are refocus on a project that might have got waylaid during the retrograde period. It's very easy during retrograde to and that's something I found, lots of things just like you just lose your way a bit because there's lots of things that you could turn your attention to and it's not clear which and all this kind of stuff. So if you waylaid on a project because you just couldn't kind of get going with it, or you couldn't get any clarity of how to take it further, or other things just flooded in, then get back to this week. Like, use this clarity to get back to a project, refocus your mind, use that clarity to refocus your mind. So maybe thinking about what your big intentions are right now, and if you made it an intention or a goal for this year, if you've kind of strayed off it, this is a good time to really focus your mind back onto this. Another one I would say is, another tip would be to have a conversation that you've been putting off for a long time, or reach out to somebody that you haven't spoken to for a long time. We always have, I have friends, I really know I do, that it's kind of like almost, it's almost embarrassing to contact you now because it's been so long that I haven't contacted you. It would just be like, well, yeah, where have you been for the last couple of years, Sarah? Like, and I'm just gonna have to like, oh yeah, really bad. But I really want those people back in my life because I miss them. So this is a good week for that kind of thing, because to focus your mind on difficult conversations, because we have this clarity and communication, and we'll be able to understand what each other are trying to say and say it easy. Look, you know, you hurt me, you neglected me. Okay, I'm sorry. That where have you been at? What's been going on in life? And move forward from these things. And remember last week we talked about maybe having some of those deep conversations. So maybe you might have even had a deep conversation with somebody last week and when we talked about that power play, maybe it was a bit of like, okay, I didn't treat you so well because my power over you, or I feel that you had that magician sleight of hand against me here, so I'm not happy with you. So this is a good week. If that did happen and you left any kind of communications a little bit strained from that, this is a good week to go in with the clarity and just, okay, look, you know, this was a situation and let's now just move forward from that. And another thing, Gemini as well loves experience. So another thing I would say is plan a day trip or an adventure close to home, because Gemini energy and Mercury energy is that kind of like energy that's close to home. So yeah, plan an experience. Maybe combine it. Maybe combine all these things. You could combine that one of those difficult conversations and go sort of somewhere else to have it.
Yeah. That's sometimes nice. Like if you're needing to have a rough conversation, to like remove yourself from like where you usually are and surround yourself with other people or another scene, and it can make kind of the ice breaking a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So so our cards this week, interesting. So the first one we have is the Wheel of Fortune. And the Wheel of Fortune is typically, you know, kind of like sometimes you're on the wheel. I mean, you're on the wheel and the wheel goes for a spin. And sometimes you hold on to the wheel and you're going with the forward momentum, and life is kind of just going with the flow. Sometimes you're on the wheel and you get thrown off the wheel runs over you, and things don't go quite as easy. It's kind of just like a spin of the wheel, and fate is up in the air. It's kind of like a gamble. What's really interesting about this card, which I know it's kind of hard to see, but it's a Ferris wheel, and it's a light, like a party. You know, you can see the little cars where people are sitting, but you can see that it almost kind of looks like the forest is kind of growing up it, like maybe like halting the joy and the merriment. And what you can see too is there's a set of eyes.
Oh yeah.
Here, kind of like this energy is like alive and trying to grab on to like the joy and the forward moving momentum of this kind of merriment that's happening in the Wheel of Fortune. So like, is the ride still going to go? Is this shadow going to overcome the ride? And what's really interesting is we pulled the Chariot to go with it. And the depiction of this chariot, and I'm sorry, I don't know the name of this salmon, but you know the salmon that they swim up.
It looks like trout, isn't it? Trout.
It could be. I haven't.
Trout swim up rivers, and as well.
Yeah. Well, there's I think there's like one kind of species of like salmon that goes like up against the current to lay their eggs, and it's like really treacherous, and they like are jumping up and over, and it reminds me of that because they like don't give up. Like it seems like the entire wrong way. You know, it seems like they're going to be like overcome with waves. They're going to go under. They're not going to make it. And it is kind of like a spin of the wheel. Like how many of those fish actually make that trek? How many of them actually get up there to lay their eggs and like don't get caught by a bear like in the process? But that the sheer determination of this animal to get to where they need to go is the chariot. And it is saying, you know, like what Sarah was just saying, you might have just come out of some cloudiness and some unsurety, but like now is the time to like go, even if you're not sure, even if you're feeling like that Mercury retrograde left some cloudiness behind you and you're feeling like you're trudging like out of it, that it's time to keep moving and to keep moving towards what you want, because if you don't keep moving, you're going to get pulled back under. And so it's time to break free, regardless of how hard it is. It's just time to go.
Yeah.
So again, the cards are very, very cohesive with the energy in the sky. So yes, keep moving and don't get pulled down by fear to finish those conversations, by cloudiness that's overcome you during Mercury retrograde. It's just time to fight the current and just swim.
Brilliant.
Yes. So that's it from me. So
I love it.
Anything else?
I love it. That like that. I think we say we call it, I think we trout in the UK do that back swimming up like against the tide, and I think definitely it is that use that clarity of thought to make sure you stay on that wheel and make sure you do battle against the things that come your way. Just keep that, this week it's your thought and your communication that's going to be the thing that's going to keep you swimming up against the tide. So it's about quick thinking and thinking. Maybe we talk a lot about intuition, but this week is more kind of like using that thinking, using that intelligence, intellect, and communicate
to keep afloat, to keep moving,
keep afloat and keep moving. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, that sounds good. So, Sarah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just keep swimming, as they say.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Well, that wraps up this week of the Astrology Forecast of the Expedition to Soul podcast. So Sarah and I will see you next week.
Yeah.
And we hope that you all have a great week ahead.
Absolutely.
Bye.
If you liked this episode of the Expedition to Soul podcast, please rate, review, subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, it will really help us spread everyday magic, intention, and intuition to the masses and helps us so much as a small business. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. There are new episodes every Tuesday and Astro Forecasts for the week ahead every Friday. If there's any topics you'd want to hear, anything you want us to dive deeper into, shoot us an email at magic@thesistersenchanted.com. And as always, thank you so much for listening and being part of the community here at the Sisters Enchanted. And we'll see you in the next episode.